Howdy, this is the Views from the Shop podcast. I'm your host, your one and only host, Tim Miller, and today it is Tuesday, March 31st, 2026, and I wish you a very, very, very happy National Bunsen Burner Day. On today's show, we are breaking down, covering, talking about the news, the huge news of Amari Bynum announcing he will return to Ohio State for a sophomore season. It was one thing that I predicted would happen during this offseason. It happens quickly, the announcement from Amari Bynum, but this is really, really big news for Ohio State. Even though it's something that I did expect to have happen, I'm sure there were a lot of people who were curious about what Amari Bynum would do. And now that you have him in the fold here in Columbus for a sophomore season, you can start to put together the puzzle pieces here of what this roster core could look like next season. So today we will cover everything surrounding Amari Bynum. This is, again, in my opinion, this might be the biggest news in terms of retention of the entire offseason. And yes, that even includes John Mobley Jr. I'll talk about why that is later on in the show. Look, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. This is the only Ohio State basketball exclusive podcast, publishing content year-round. We preview, we recap every game throughout the season. Right now, we're all in on the portal. Anytime there's news, you get a podcast, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss anything. Like the video on YouTube. Subscribe on YouTube as well. YouTube's going crazy right now, so please join in on the fun there. And get to the Substack, viewsfromtheshoppodcast.substack.com. This is the final day you can get in on the insider chat before the price goes up. If you want access and you want to unlock insider scoops, intel, things like that, and just a lot of context on what's going on behind the scenes with Ohio State basketball, that is the place for you. Highly recommend you get there as well. But the news of the day, or the news of yesterday, is Amari Bynum has announced he will continue his career with the Ohio State University Buckeyes. He'll return to Columbus as a sophomore. This is a guy who could have gotten very, very healthy offers to enter the portal, whether it be Nebraska, whether it be elsewhere in the Big Ten, or even outside of the Big Ten. This was going to be a player who, if he had entered the portal, would have been one of the top players available in the transfer portal. The Devin Royal news that hit on Sunday, that came first, but it was a result of Ohio State already obtaining and retaining Amari Bynum. In reality, Amari Bynum got wrapped up before or right as the season ended, I guess I'll say. He was the top priority for Ohio State along with John Mobley Jr. And Amari Bynum is the first player to announce that he will return to Ohio State for the upcoming season. Like I said, he was the top priority. Quite frankly, he was the guy to keep over Devin Royal. I would have prioritized Amari Bynum over Devin Royal for multiple reasons. I'm not sure there's many people who question that, but you look at how Amari Bynum played down the stretch, and you look at his overall style of play, being a fit for Ohio State. You even look back at just the Michigan State game, and you compare between Devin Royal and Amari Bynum, and what happened in that game. Amari Bynum was sick with a fever well over 100 degrees, and he played in that game. Did he play well? No. It did not go well for Amari Bynum, but he's still, for whatever reason, decided to give it a go and try to play in that game for Ohio State. Whereas Devin Royal was sitting on the bench with the team, sick as well, decided not to play. And I'm not saying that there's necessarily character differences there, but I mean, you can read into that however you'd like. So Devin Royal is out at Ohio State. That is the only portal departure we know of right now for the Buckeyes. Obviously, no one is in for Ohio State from the portal, but as you look at the roster as a whole, you got 5-star Anthony Thompson coming in for Ohio State at small forward. You got 4-star power forward Alex Smith, who's going to play that real stretch 4 position, maybe potentially even more of a stretch 4 than an Amari Bynum type player. I know Bynum's not necessarily known as much as being a really true stretch 4, but that 3-point shot, it did come around down the stretch for Amari Bynum in Ohio State. And of course, you've got Bynum on the roster as well for next season. No announcement to this point from players like John Mobley Jr., Gabe Cupps, Tayson Chapman, Colin White, Josh Ojawuna, and Ivan Nagovin. I will continue to expect that both Ojawuna and Nagovin return for Ohio State. That would be my guess at this point for the Buckeyes, and we'll see what happens with the Gabe Cupps and the Taysom Chapman situation. I think this is a big week, by the way, between the Gabe Cupps and Taysom Chapman decision situation there, so that's something to keep an eye on. But as you look at the player that Amari Bynum is, and we'll get into him now, just talking about the impact and the roster impact that he's got coming up for next season. This is a player who he played really, really well for Ohio State down the stretch throughout the season. Remember, he entered the starting lineup mid-ish December for that North Carolina game. That was the first time he started, and then he never gave that starting spot away for the rest of the year. I think he started the final 23 games of the season for Ohio State. Season-long averages 9.7 points per game, 1.1 assists per game, nearly 5 rebounds per game at 4.9, shoots at 50.6% from the field and 35% from the three-point line. And here is the special part, I think, from Amari Bynum. And part of the reason I'm so excited that he's back for Ohio State, it's because he was playing his best basketball late. He never hit a freshman wall. We've seen players at Ohio State hit that freshman wall before. Bruce Thornton, one of the greatest players to ever go through the program at Ohio State, at least who stayed for 4 years. I guess you'd probably say an Evan Turner type would be better than Bruce Thornton. But you know what I'm saying, right? Like Bruce Thornton will go down in Ohio State basketball history. He hit a freshman wall that first year when Chris Holtmann was still head coach. There's been plenty of players who have done it, even outside of Ohio State, who hit that freshman wall. Amari Bynum did not. Over his final 10 games, he averaged 11 points per game, 5.9 rebounds per game. He shot at 57% from the field and 42% from the three-point line. So his scoring average, it was higher over his last 10 than his season-long average. Rebounding was up by a full rebound. His field goal percentage up by 6 or 7 percentage points, and his three-point percentage, 30.8% across the year, up to 42% from behind the arc in that final 10-game stretch for Ohio State. And what I really care about, I think, with Amari Bynum over the final 10 games of the season was the rebounding. Now, the offensive rebounding, I don't know. Are you going to ask him to rebound? Like that's one thing I guess we don't really know, is that are these guys being asked to offensive rebound for Ohio State, or you want to get back and protect in transition? Whatever the case may be, the offensive rebounding rate, not great for Amari Bynum over the last 10 or across the season, but the impressive part for Amari Bynum, the season-long defensive rebounding rate for Bynum, 15.8%, 21.2% over the final 10. That is near elite status. The block rate stayed pretty similar as well for Bynum, but as we look at his play overall, the most important number to me, the most important shooting metric that you can find is your true shooting percentage. True shooting percentage for Amari Bynum, 68.1%. That's elite. That's 90th percentile. So Bynum was really, really good down the stretch. And this is a two-way player. He can score offensively. Obviously, he's turning into a little bit more of a stretch four. I do think he can create a little bit off the dribble on the perimeter, but his ability to shoot the three ball down the stretch was huge for Ohio State. And not only that, but on the defensive end too. You're going to see him block shots. You're going to see him, just because of how long he is, he can defend, he can take up a lot of space. And overall, I think Bynum's his finishing ability around the rim as a slasher, his ability to score, backing guys down. Sure, there are times where you would say, yeah, it feels like he gets bullied a little bit down low. Yeah, it feels like he can flash better hands down low. But all in all, what you got from Amari Bynum throughout his freshman year was just better and better and better basketball as the season progressed. Remember, he scored 20 points against Washington in that weird January game that Ohio State lost. He had 18-9 in the win over Indiana, 18-8. You're watching highlights from that game against Wisconsin earlier in the year at a loss to the Badgers. But again, it just felt like Amari Bynum was playing his best basketball late for Ohio State, and that's really, really exciting at this point. The three-point shooting was huge. Added an element for the Buckeyes. Rebounding as well was really good. Needs to grow in the offensive glass, I would say, but with that athleticism that he's got, with the length that he's got, there's no reason why he shouldn't be able to rebound. So Ohio State keeps Amari Bynum. It's a huge deal at this point. And in terms of the roster impact moving forward now, as you look at this rising sophomore, you've got the potential for, I mean, one of the best forward duos in the Big Ten with Amari Bynum. This is a player who, again, he played really well as a freshman. He's going to step up as a sophomore now. And if you can especially shoot closer to like 35% from the 3-point line as a sophomore, you're looking at him, and his floor, I think, is very high next year for Ohio State. And then you're looking at Anthony Thompson coming in for the Buckeyes as a freshman. Amari Bynum, 7'3" wingspan, 6'8". Anthony Thompson, 7'3" wingspan, and 6'8" as well. So you're looking at two guys who've got a lot of length. Remember, Ohio State was not the biggest team whatsoever last year. You're already going to upgrade at the 3. Denver Royal, 6'6". Anthony Thompson, 6'8". Bynum, obviously no change at the 4. But that's going to help. Having the length, having the height that Ohio State is going to have, and having two highly athletic floor stretchers next year, you're going to have to guard those guys outside of the arc. And you're also going to have to protect against them scoring off the dribble drive. Both of these guys are going to be able to contribute on both ends of the floor as well. So I think that the fact that you've got Amari Bynum coming back as a sophomore, at small forward, you've got a 5-star freshman coming in as well. You've got the potential for a very, very special pairing here at Ohio State next year at the 3 and at the 4 for the Buckeyes. So I think that all in all, as you look at this news today, or coming yesterday for Ohio State, you look at, again, Amari Bynum's 3-point shooting ability, his floor stretching ability, his play strength, and you look at just the fact that this is a player who, coming into this season, he was a 4-star, and we had some excitement for him, but he exceeded expectations in year 1 at Ohio State. I think you can make the argument that this is the biggest retention move of the offseason for Ohio State, and I'm including John Mobley Jr. in that mix. Look, he played his best basketball late. You look at his scoring going up to 11 points per game over his final 10. He rebounded on average, one more rebound per game over his final 10 games in the season-long average. He shot the ball better. He rebounded the ball better. He did everything better for Ohio State down the stretch, not hitting that freshman wall. You pair him with the 5-star and Anthony Thompson. You've now got potential stars or superstars. Anthony Thompson regularly mocked as a lottery pick in the NBA draft for 2027. So you've got him. You've got pairing him with Amari Bynum. You got both these guys have got incredible length, incredible size, incredible wingspan. And I think the potential for Amari Bynum is probably higher than a John Mobley Jr. I think the ceiling is higher for Amari Bynum than it is for John Mobley Jr. I think it's very easy to see that 1 year from now, we're looking at Amari Bynum for sure going to the NBA draft, getting mocked in the first round, and he's heading to the NBA draft. I don't know if we're going to see that from John Mobley Jr. a year from now. We might, but we certainly didn't see that from John Mobley Jr. at the end of his sophomore year, and we still don't see it at the end of his junior year. So, of the 3 known starters at this point for Ohio State, you've got Anthony Thompson, you've got Amari Bynum. We expect John Mobley Jr. to be back as well. That is a core that can carry you to a Sweet 16. You got to wait for who else is going to start at guard. You got to wait to see what happens at center. But right now for Ohio State, this is a core that can get you to the Sweet 16 or better. And that's got to be highly, highly encouraging for Jake Diebler, his staff, for this fan base who's been yearning for this team to get better. So, moving forward, look, I think that, again, for someone like me who, I'm not saying this to how I am at this point, right? Like, a lot of fans wondered about about Amari Bynum. And is he going to return? Is he not? Not knowing the answers, whatever the case may be. I don't know, I wouldn't say I knew because I got to see it just like you have to see it, but I had a very good inclination that Amari Bynum was going to be back. So the announcement comes and it's just like, okay, check it off the box. This was expected for me. We'll record a podcast. I've already got the article written, whatever, post it. It is what it is. But I think for a lot of fans, you should be very, very excited about the fact that Amari Bynum is going to be back next year. It is a huge deal. It's a difference maker for Ohio State at this point. Now, you look for a similar announcement from John Mobley Jr. I don't know if it comes today. I don't know if it comes in the coming days, but I think we're going to see a very similar announcement from John Mobley Jr. saying that he will be back with Ohio State. And again, John Mobley Jr. Anthony Thompson, Amari Bynum. That's your 2, 3, and 4 in the starting lineup next year. It's hard to get much better than that for Ohio State. So I'm very, very excited about the foundation that this roster has at this point. I think you should be very, very excited as well at this point about what the roster looks like. We'll see what Ohio State does in the transfer portal. Again, that's why you got to be subscribed. You got to be subscribed here on podcasts. You got to be subscribed on YouTube, because I will continue to push out content whenever anything happens. This is the only place doing it at this point. Get to the Substack as well, views from the shop podcast.substack.com, so that you're not missing a thing, because things are going to move quickly. Things are happening behind the scenes. Insider subscribers know what's going on right now behind the scenes as well. So if you want to unlock that, please do. But this is a really, really good spot for Ohio State. This is by far the best I felt about the core foundation roster for Ohio State heading into the portal window than I have. This is by far the best I've felt than any other year since starting this podcast. So it's been really years. I mean, go back to the Dwayne Washington era, I guess, at this point, when I felt really good. You've got your EJ Liddells, and you've got some really good CJ Walker, really, really good players on those rosters. This is the best I've felt about Ohio State in a long time. There's still work to be done, but Ohio State fans, I think at this point, should start to feel really, really encouraged and really, really excited about what this team may be next year. For the first time in a while, we're looking at a roster that baseline, just the core, I do believe can get you to a Sweet 16, if not better. So make sure you're locked in here to the Views from the Shop podcast, wherever you're getting your podcasts, on YouTube, all that stuff, so you don't miss a thing. Things are going to continue to move. I'll post it on the Substack. I'll post it on podcasts on YouTube, so you don't miss anything. Make sure you're locked in. Things are going to move quickly. Alrighty. I don't know when I will see you again. I'm hoping I see you very soon with the John Mobley Jr. announcement as well. We will see what happens with that. But until next time, thanks so much for taking in the show today. I shut up before you shut me off. Go Bucks.